Well, hello everybody. Like the rest of the world, I'm in quarantine, and I thought that this would be a really great time to introduce some fundamentals of beading for the Orishas, specifically in the Afro-Cuban Lucumí context, which I'm familiar with. I've been beading since 1997 consistently, and over the time I've had many excellent mentors. I've learned a lot from so many important people on the techniques, the traditions of beading for the Orishas, both the physical aspects of beading, the threading, the needles, the stitching, all of the actual mechanics, but also the traditions, the need and the necessity to follow the ways that our ancestors can and continue to teach us. And I hope that I can share some of that with you. By no means am I going to say that this is the only way. There's a million techniques. There's a million different ways of doing something. And perhaps just take from this what works for you. Maybe see some differences that might be of interest to you. But again, this is all done in the spirit of sharing and hopefully getting you interested in the tradition of beading. Beads are one of the most fundamental ways of signifying the Orishas. We have virtually every single Orisha has its own bead pattern or colors, or even if it doesn't have a physical consecrated material base. For example, if you don't receive the Orisha, there can still be a necklace that you receive to signify those Orishas. Then the process, both the process of making, but also the process of the beaded item becoming sacred, it goes through a consecration process, which is done by competent priests only. So anybody can make beads. There are certain aspects to bead making, such as tying, that does need to be done by a priest in order for it to be made and sanctified in the way that's upheld by Lucumí tradition. So I hope this will be the start of a series of videos. I want to introduce to you the skeleton, the fundamentals of Orisha beadwork, which are seed beads. I'd like to do another video on threads, on the tools such as needles, then also the different types of beads other than seed beads that we use in some of the things that we make, and also to work on specific projects. I am working right now on various pieces of beadwork for myself and for other people, and hopefully this can be a platform where I share some of the techniques that I use. For this video, we'll be looking at seed beads or glass beads that make up elekes. So these are elekes, necklaces, Orisha necklaces. These have been consecrated already. And the majority that are in this bundle here are seed beads. These are seed beads here. And I hope that the camera, as I go through, will pick up the intricacies and zoom in on the specific beads. My apologies if it doesn't. I'm definitely not a videographer, so please bear with me as I learn this skill. And I will be concentrating on these, but over the course of these videos, I hope we can move on to making a more elaborate beaded pieces. This is a masito or a small mazo. It has one strand. I've yet to finish tying the ends of this mazo. This is for Obatala ala gema. We can also look at making larger mazos. This is for Oshun. So there's that. We can look at beading 3D objects. This is a maraca and a shere for Yamaya Okuti. that I beaded. It's a really nice project to bead the musical instruments of each of the Orishas, ultimately. Two gourds. This is a woven technique of beading a medicine gourd. It's probably not going to show. There we go. And more 3D objects. So this is a garabato, the sacred hooked staff, or goeshu for elegua. That has little adornments. It has a little beaded gourd. So hopefully we will get there. But at the basis of all of these pieces, even the most elaborate, are what we call seed beads. Seed beads, to those that are not familiar with them, because they actually look very uniform, they actually weigh not very much, are glass. A lot of people think that they're plastic because they literally don't weigh much, but if you knock them to your teeth, you'll hear that they're glass. So it's important to remember that fundamentally these seed beads, as they're called, are what the majority of Orisha worshippers use to construct things for the Orishas. Everything else is an elaboration. I will also talk about beads made of precious and semi-precious materials. We can do amber, coral, jet, and metals such as gold and silver, as well as shells, as mother of pearl. And we also have things like antique ivory as well. So seed beads come in a variety of sizes, and the way of indicating seed bead sizes can be very complicated because the measurement is based on a number which is actually the inverse of what you'd think. So as seed beads get larger in size, the number gets smaller, as how we refer to them. And let me kind of introduce you to that. So here are some very, very small seed beads. These are actually, in my opinion, too small to bead elekes with, necklaces with, Orisha necklaces with. Another size up would be here. I don't know if you can see. Let me put those two. Well, sorry. Let me actually see if that will focus. Probably not. And then going up one step further, we have these. And a little bit bigger, we have these. And then these on the other side of the red are huge. So how do we name them? How do you buy the right ones that you want to start beading for the Orishas? So the traditional way of measuring or of quantifying bead sizes is that you would have an 1 inch length, and then you would see how many beads fit in this way with the holes up would fit on that 1 inch length. So from here to here should be 1 inch, and then you'd line up a bunch of these beads and see how many would fit. And I say this is traditionally because with the types of beads available, the variations in manufacture from country to country, this measurement varies quite a lot, and it doesn't actually hold true for the majority of beads. But for our purposes, we'll just line up a few and pretend that this is a 1 inch space, even though it clearly isn't. So we have those here, roughly. It's just for demo purposes, but imagine we also had a line of these red ones, which I'm not going to bother to line up. Well, let me just take them out because they'll be confusing. So traditionally, if there were 5 beads that would fit in 1 inch like this, those would be called 5 O's, 5/0. If there were 8, they would be called 8 O's. So there'd be 8 beads that would fit. So there's more beads that would fit in that line. And if there's a 10-O, a 10-O means that even 10 would fit into that 1 inch line. So as the number gets bigger from 8 to 10 to 12, we're fitting in more and more beads per inch. So that's why the name doesn't, or the classification doesn't really compute to what we think, because, okay, a size 1O bead would technically be 1 bead that fits into that inch, and it doesn't. These, for example, these yellows, these are a size 2, 2 O's. So they would be 2, according to that scale, it would be 2 beads per inch, but it isn't. What we use mainly, so that you don't get confused further, is 5 O's and 6 O's, which are these two here. Let me get rid of these. Let me put these here. So these are 5 O beads and 6 O beads. Five O's, which is perhaps the most common. 6 O's. 5 O's become the most readily available. So these turquoise are from a tube. You'll often find them available for sale in some sort of tube like this. Here are some more. And it's written on the label, oh my gosh, it's going to be written on the label 6O, which you probably can't see because the camera is not going to focus. Let me take my hand away. Anyway, it says 6/0. Let's see one more time. Nope. Maybe if I put it down. And they come in little tubes of maybe 25 grams that you can buy. So this is a really great start, a really great way to start your beading, to buy little containers of 5O beads. And you can find them in many craft stores. You can find them online. I'll be putting a couple of links to Amazon sources of these beads, because, you know, we can't go out to purchase them at the moment. Hopefully in the future you can go find them. And they're the most versatile, the most useful. And less common are these 5O, which are slightly bigger. I actually prefer, personally, to make necklaces, elekes, in the slightly bigger version. I think they look very nice, they wear very nice. But conversely, people also love to make smaller beads, because if you're wearing them to work, or if you're wearing many of them, they're not so bulky, they're not so heavy. So these are size 8, 8O beads. And they're also quite common. As you can see, they're very fine. They come in a gazillion colors. So these are all hanks. A hank is 12 strands. And the best types of beads, I'll get into the origins of beads in a minute, of these seed beads in a minute, are strung on hanks. Why? Because it takes more labor to string them. They're more uniform, so you know that they have a hole, that they are pre-strung, and that they will be ready to go. Just to give another example, so these are all 8 O's. This is a 5O hank, and you can see the difference the comparison of the sizes of those as well. So all of these beads that you're seeing here, and mainly here, are Czech origin. So these are made from the Czech Republic, used to be Czechoslovakia, which is perhaps the most renowned center and industry for making glass beads. A place called Jablonek continues the craft, and these Czech beads come in the widest variety of sizes, of shapes, of finishes, and they continue to go strong. Their prices are also rather high because of that quality, because of the long tradition of the Bohemian glass industry for making those glass beads. So you will pay a pretty penny for those. But if you're working on small projects, you can always just buy smaller quantities, which makes it a little bit affordable. And then you can also go to specialist suppliers to buy hanks. This is several hanks bundled to one, so that you're actually saving money in the long term by buying it in bulk. And these are sold by weight or by container, and that these are sold by hanks, or also can be sold by the half kilo or the kilo. And if you become serious, or you are serious in beading, the long-term investment would be, at least for the most commonly used colors, would be in the larger sizes, in the larger quantities. So the Czech Republic is not the only source of beads. Asia has become very popular and very important in the global trade of beads, supplying the world with beads. In Japan, there's two main supplies of beads, one being Toho, which is where these are from, and another being Miyuki. And Japanese seed beads are excellent for weaving and loom work because they are extremely regular in their size, in their comparisons. Czech beads are also very regular. You can rely that all of these beads are going to be consistent in these strands. Most recently, the market has seen the rise of Chinese beads. So bulk produced Chinese beads, which this is an example of. You'll often see them for sale in these plastic glasses. This is, I think, 1 pound or half a kilo, around there. And I don't know if you can see, I'll show you in a separate way, but there's quite a lot of irregularity in these beads. Let me just open this up here. But the price difference, this, for example, may cost you $5 for this whole bag. This hank of beads might cost you $20 because it's Czech. Also, depending on the color or the finish or the text, the sort of other surface designs of the seed beads, the prices can range. So for me personally, I prefer to use Czech beads whenever I can. I don't mind using some Chinese glass beads if the quality is excellent. These orange beads are Chinese, and you can see that they're pretty uniform. It wouldn't be too hard for me to make something or to include some of these Chinese beads and pick out the irregular ones, should I need to. So this is a good option for the beginner beader, or for buying colors that you might not use too often, or that you want to try them out. But the very best type of Orisha beadwork, where quality is concerned, and for me it's of utmost importance, is to have the very best materials. I'll do a whole different rant about using plastic, using glue, which I'm not a fan of, but that's for another day. So you have a couple of choices. You will probably find Chinese beads readily available. You'll find some Czech beads readily available in the smaller sizes. And I have produced here a few, let me see, I made this little thing to show you the different sizes. So we have different sizes of Czech seed beads. So we're starting, this is here, the most useful ones. So this is a size 6 right here. And then these two are actually a size 5. Again, I don't know if you can pick up on the camera or if the camera can pick up, but the blue and the chalky white are a little bit different in size. No, it's not gonna focus. There we go, a little bit. And then these we have down here by my thumb are size 8s. So these two, the black and the green, are size 6, 5. These are a size 4, and these are a size 2. So these ones would probably use for embellishments, and then I would stick within the light blue, the chalky white, the black, and the green to make the bulk of a necklace. These size 6 are often also called 6/6/0s. They're also often called e-beads. So if you're searching to buy beads, you'll find them as 6/0, but also they can be called e-beads. And the name e-bead is when a bead is made, it's a long piece of glass with a hole in it. So imagine this, and this is cut into little beads. So, and that pressing would flatten the bead into an almost E-like shape, like this, the curly E shape. So that's just one of the ways of finding another type of naming the bead. So E-beads. The larger sizes are often called pony beads. So if you're looking for these larger beads to embellish or to add dimension to your beadwork, you might find these seed beads labeled as pony beads, especially the very large size. So look for 5/0s, 5/0s, and 6/0, 6/0. So that gives you a visual representation of the different sizes. I have here some size 6/0 beads, and these are all striped, but these are all Chinese made. So Czech manufacturers tend not to make the most difficult designs of seed beads anymore, or if they do, they are prohibitively expensive. So Chinese beads, depending on the quality, you might want to seek out striped beads, often used for babaluaye, but also used for other orishas as well. As you can probably see, or I hope you can see, that these beads are not as regular or as even as, say, a regular Czech bead. So these Chinese striped beads, the shape is a little bit weird, but for me, that's a payoff, you know, that doesn't matter so much when it comes to these beads. For example, you might spend $10 on half a kilo of these green and white striped beads, but you're not going to use them all the time, so that's fine. As opposed to buying a hank for $30. But also with striped beads, and these are all Czech-made striped beads, you can see that nothing really compares to the quality, to the luster, to the shine, to the beauty, to the clarity of the beads. You know, the stripes on these are wonderful. They're so crisp and precise. The shape of the larger beads, so these ones, these are actually antique striped beads, drawn, as they say, from a piece of cane. These are modern, but you can see as the striped check beads gets larger in size, they already become quite uneven in shape. But for our purposes, the smaller ones are gorgeous. So if you have the budget, especially for Oya, this stripy maroon bead, which is her signature bead, inlay is yellow, red and green striped, it's really worth investing in those beads. If you ever find check striped beads for sale at reasonable prices, give them to me first. But if you don't give them to me, then buy them for yourself, because they're becoming harder to buy and way more expensive to buy as well. And you can also see that the colors, I don't know if you can see, the brown versus winey maroon of the Oya bead is really varies on depending on the dye lot. So if you're making a project, make sure that you have enough beads to finish it. Another important type of bead that it was traditionally used for the Orishas are what we called white heart beads. These, like the striped check beads, are very, very hard to find. They're called white heart because they have two colors, a white heart or core around which there is a different colored glass, and then by doing that you get an amazing sort of brilliance and glow to the beads. Yeah, none of this is going to focus, I'm so sorry, but whatever. So these perhaps are the costliest. They come in all shapes and sizes, and there's antique ones that you can probably find already strung, and then you can restring. Some of the most common, which are used also in Native American beading, are these amazing red, cherry red beads. But again, they come in every single color, and it's always appropriate to use white heart beads for the Orishas if you can find them. Generally, the Czech Republic factories do not produce these. I mean, there's some still produced, but what they have started doing is producing these star-shaped carnelian beads, I think they're called. Let's see if I can lift these up for you. Maybe put them on here. So, no. These will cost you maybe $100 for a half kilo, just to give you an idea of the price. What else can I show you? There are some colors that are best produced by the Czech Republic. One of them being, especially for Orisha beading, is pink. This is called Dusty Rose Pink, similar to the Native American Cheyenne Pink. But I don't know if you can see, again, this is my first video of doing something, so please forgive me for the awkward angles, and I'm not sure how the colors will come out, but you can see that this is a very muted pink. It's not a bright neon pink. This kind of pink is very difficult to produce. It's very expensive because it takes gold chloride to produce. It's a glass bead, but the color, the pink color, requires gold, and gold is at its highest value in this decade than it has ever been, in last decade I should say. So to buy pink, true pink beads that we use with the Orishas is very difficult. Again, so if you find these for sale, this is a size 6, snap them up. Check. Glass pink bead. You have to check the beads that you buy if they're from Chinese origin or Czech origin, to see very carefully if they are coated beads, because they could be a white bead with just a film of color that could easily wash off. For example, these beads, this is called Santa Fe Blue. They're gorgeous, but if I use a nail file, or you can get a bead and you can run it against a brick wall or against, you know, the concrete pavement a few times to scratch off the color. I don't know if you can see that, but the white is showing through. Let me just get rid of some more. That is very easily going to wash off. So I personally would not use these in Orisha beadwork. I've seen a lot of red beads, especially from China, come out that are actually coated. So do check any bead that you buy to see if it's coated or the actual glass is dyed this color in the process. Oftentimes you can find very legitimate beads that have a coating just because that's the style and the fashion that you have at hand. The Czech Republic are also producing this lighter shade of matte pink beads. I don't know if you can see those, but if I were to do the same test, it's harder to pick up on camera because the difference in color is not as great, but there is white showing through. I would not use these pink beads either. I would only use these, and you can really tell sort of the difference in tone between the two, and you can even see the sort of shine on the legitimate beads as opposed to those. A couple of wears, a couple of washes in Omiyero, and those would be white beads. There are, though, other bead finishes, matte finishes, shine finishes that won't come off. So again, it's just a case of trial and error. And seed beads, talking about finishes, about the extra or the way that they look, comes in a variety of colors. So this is just an example of the different finishes or the different types of seed beads that you can find. We have all of these, apart from this one at the end, all of these are translucent. They let the light through. They're not opaque. And they have an inner metal core. The metal core can be silver. The metal core can be gold. The metal core can be copper. And depending on the color of that metal, which is the sort of spine of each bead, it gives you a different kind of shine. So these are mostly silver lined beads. You can see here, hopefully, that this is glass, translucent glass with a silver core, pink, translucent pink with a silver core, a frosted green, a teal or a turquoise, an apple green or a lighter green, a red, the most beautiful, with this kind of fiery, intense silver core. This is an amber or topaz, and it has a black core. Turquoise with a silver core, and a beautiful seafoam green that's also have a matte finish and a silver core. And these really add some sparkle. I would not recommend making a necklace. It's not traditional to make a complete necklace, especially for aleos or for non-priests, out of these shinier finished beads. But you can use them for accents and embellishments, and they add a nice bit of glimmer and glint to the beadwork. Also that this shine, it can dull a little bit over time, but often you'll find that even after years, there's still some of that sort of fire in your beadwork, that kind of reflexivity, that reflection. And then this, it might look like a dyed or a coated bead, but this is a matte red bead. It's not coated. The entire bead is made from this non-shiny glass. So if I were to scratch this against the floor or against a file, it would not be a coating that would come off. It would be this color through and through. Okay, coming towards the end. This is a necklace, or just a piece that I've put together of the most common colors of beads in size 6 that you can use for the orishas, or that you could probably start with. White, red, yellow and blue. We have this green. So obviously, let me just start, obviously Obatala and Chango, Oshun, Yemaya. Then we have green, we have black, so that could be for Ogun. And then again, this is a very subtle difference in colors, but this section here is brown, and this section here is a rusty red. Let me see if I can put a piece of white paper down to make the colors show, hopefully, differently. So brown we use, for example, for agayu, and then this rusty red is called matipo. Let's see if I lift it up. And then this is an opalescent milky white bead, which is called habong, or soap, because it looks like soapy water. The color of soapy water, as if you washed some soap in water and it's turned it cloudy, milky. That's used in many orishas. These two can also be used for the Orisha Funfung, the white orishas. This is, translucent with a silver lining. Can also be used for Yemaya or Lokung as well. A light blue for many orishas, Orichaoko, along with this special pink. This is the striped maroon bead for Oya, indispensable for her necklaces. And then this is the striped bead for Inle, which is yellow, that has green and red stripes. We have a honey or a topaz color used for Oshun and associated orishas. And then we have a brilliant silver lined red if we want to give some contrast to this opaque red. So I would say with these colors, give or take, you could start your own kit, you could start your own foundational beadwork practice, and then as time progresses, for example, not every path of Yemaya will take this blue, you have to make a necklace for Asesu, then you can buy lighter blue beads. You want to add an ivory color to necklaces for Batala, you buy some ivory. Inlay, for example, you might want to give some dimension of iridescent aqua-ish beads, and so on and so forth. So this is my attempt at beginning to show you some of the mysteries of beadwork. Again, this is not the only way of doing anything. I would never want to presume to tell you that, but I hope it gives you some insight into the fundamentals of beadwork, a little bit of the history, some of the sizes. So remember, we have different sizes. The best to search for is 5/0 or 6/0, 6/0 being the most important. We can look at various origins of beads, whether they're Chinese, Czech, Japanese. There's also beads from India. There's beads from other parts of Europe. And we can start making things that adorn the Orishas and praise them. So I look forward to any comments and questions that you may have. Feel free to stick around for hopefully the next videos, and let's get beading.